Hello and welcome to Teacher Needs a Drink podcast. I am Elvis, your host. I'm here to let you know that this is a not safe for work podcast. We are teachers at the end of our week and really the end of our ropes, and we'd like to be able to talk honestly and openly about education without having to worry about losing our jobs. So we'll be using pseudonyms throughout the podcast, hence the Elvis. I'd like to give a start and shout out to all of our lovely patrons out there. For as little as $5 a month, you can support the podcast and help us keep going and pay for production costs. And by doing so, you get access to over 100 different pieces of audio content that are on our special Patreon audio list. You get your name right at the beginning of the podcast. You get access to an amazing Facebook group, and you get to chat with the host during live stream. And today you're going to get to hear from several of our patrons who I interviewed for the podcast. But here are the ones who've been supporting us, and I love them all. Here we go. Eccentric ESOL Lady, Terry J, Justin M, Tracy B, Miss Wonderstats, Quentin P, Ekebex, Mistress Mischief, Natasha S, Miss Anthropy, Princess Buttercup, Dragon Lady, Kel C, Helena C, Aaron B, Stephanie X, TexasTeacherKristen, she's on the podcast today, Miss Sunshine, James Nally J, Jody D, Samantha D, Lisa C, Rachel, Jen Genie, Exhausted Band Director, Kimberly K, Jessica A, Swiffle Ev Owners, Amanda F, Ariana L, Physics Runner, Steph, Michael M, William P, Aldrich T, The Scorpionita, Britt M, Teresa H, Biker Teach, Marcia M, Christina B, Kristen B, Jason F, Abby B, Sarah B, Regina N, Josie S, Sam B, Mary E, Jamie B, Kristen W, Vanessa J, Mary C, RJR, Kristen C, Johanna H, Irma A, Nimi, and Sarah N. Big thank you to all of them. I'd also like to thank our sponsors at Lud Lamb Dramatics. If you are a theater teacher or no one in your building, go to Lud Lamb Dramatics. They produce about 45 different educational theater posters that are classroom specific. No one else in the U.S. does this. So if you are a theater teacher looking for resources, or you have a theater teacher in your building, send them to Lud Lamb Dramatics. It's worth it. It really is. All right, folks, today is a special episode because I was feeling off my game. I've been just struggling with life and emotions and all that stuff. Anyone who listens a lot has probably read through the lines and picked up on what was going on. But I'm doing better. And so today, for our episode, I decided to choose and reach out to some of our patrons. I put it out in the Facebook group if anyone wanted to be interviewed. And the people who were able to be interviewed and their times lined up with mine and they responded, they're on this podcast. So we get to hear from 3 of our Patreon patrons today in just little interviews. I hope you guys get to hear this. And the main takeaway from all this is you're not alone. If you're a teacher out there struggling, there are hundreds and thousands of us just like you. They may not all be in your school, or you might not even know all of them, but we are out there and you are not alone in going through what you're doing. So remember that, take a deep breath, enjoy these, and keep listening to the podcast. And sign up for the Patreon. All right, my friends. Love you all. Enjoy. Peace. Enjoy our interview with Exhausted Band Director. How did you hear about the podcast? How did you find out about us?
I was just on Spotify searching for new podcasts to listen to over the summer, and I think this was about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. Coming home from visiting family in Central Texas, and Teacher Needs a Drink came up, and I binged for about 4.5, 5 hours driving.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you've joined. I'm glad you support us on the Patreon. So out of education or out of topics and stuff we cover, what's something you're interested in or like that really grabs you when you know we're going for it or you see it in the title?
I think the biggest thing for me is equality in teaching, because not only for people of color, but also for gender as well, because I know that what I see and what I hear from a lot of my female colleagues in the band world, they're treated very differently by admin, especially in the area that I am, because the area that I'm in is very, we'll say old school is a nice way of putting it, old fashioned. And it hurts me to see them treated that way, because they're just as good or better musicians and educators than I am. And it's not fair that they're being treated this way.
So do you see a lot of like people talking down to them because they're women, or they're not getting enough opportunities, or it's just good old boy like, hey, your pretty little thing wouldn't understand this? I mean, what are you seeing, or what do you feel?
All of the above. Honestly, there's a little bit of, because they're a woman, they're leaned on a little bit more by other teachers because they are women. The good old boy system is alive and well. No, that part of the U.S. and that part of the state feels like it's a good 20 years behind the times with just about everything.
everything from race relations to just how you act decently to people. And so my ex used to live out there, and a lot of her family is from that area. And whew, it was a trip back in time whenever we went out there. And it can be tricky. And I can't imagine teaching in that where you have kids who have access to all the modern stuff running into this old, good old boy system that's just been stuck in place for 60 years. How do you thrive in that?
As much as I hate to say it, it's a little bit of you have, for a lot of people, it's very much you have to play the game of latching on to an old boy. And as much as I steer away from that, what you were talking about, it's something that somebody's going to find you and they're going to be like they like you, and you're going to be part of their group, and they're going to give you knowledge and stuff like that, and then you see them shunning some others, so that's hard. But I
Yeah.
very much try to, with my students, it's a simple fact of when the first day of class I say y'all are my surrogate children. I love every single one of y'all. You're my surrogate children. I'm going to treat you as such, and it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter how much money you have in your pocket. It's you're my children. I'm going to love all of y'all, and I'm going to treat y'all all equally. That's the only way I can do it, because it's nice in some other areas of the state where you can be more vocal in your community. Here we have to try to do it a little bit through the students, the individual student, and being as vocal as we can be in this area.
Are you guys able to take chances and do more student-led events that might be, against the conservative nature of that area? Or is it pretty much if it has a rainbow flag, or if this is something that's progressive, or it's going to get shut down by admin, or at least by neighboring parents?
It's going to be more of that. Because a city that is near, generally in the area where they have a pagan market once a month, and without fail, the Catholic Church down the street is out marching around it. So it's very much one of those where it's very conservative Christian values, and while Christian values have their place, and if we follow them as they're actually intended, it's good. But
Yeah, but we don't need to put that on to students who, might not be Christian, or make teachers who might not be Christian have to service those values, no matter how universal they might supposed to be. So I hear that. And that's a tough situation you're in. Do you have a partner you live with, or someone who is there that is also a teacher, or do they do another job, or?
I am married. I have a wife of, what is it, 5 years now? Is it 5 years? Almost 6 years, and a full 2-year-old daughter. Who I'm currently sitting in the wreckage of the living room from her rain. But yeah, my wife and I live together, and she's mostly a stay-at-home parent. She has some side gigs that she does, but she mostly stay-at-home parent. So we're lucky in that regard.
But that's great. Does she support you continuing teaching? Is she like, you know what, I'm seeing how burned and exhausted you are, exhausted band director. You should try something else, or how does she support you through all this?
She is very, because she's also a musician as well. We're both we and she's very supportive of it, but she's also one who's very much in odds with as the community as a whole of some of the beliefs that they have. It's one of those that work to be the light of students, that the light for students who don't get a lot of it. They are accepted, or they're seen, making sure that they feel seen in our class, and that's something that we both really talk about.
I think that's very valid. And I think that's what speaks to a lot of teachers when you have those one or two students, no matter what subject you teach, that this is the place where they actually are thriving, or they can be wherever they are. It's their shiny spot to be. And it could be anything from music to theater to history to math to AP bio, or who knows what. But I think it's great that you're able to be that and able to recognize that. So congratulations. That's good.
Thank you. It's one of those things, like music at its essence is blind, and it does not see. Music is a fabric of the universe, and it's part of all of us. So why should we make music not applicable for everyone?
No, here. It's universal. I like that a lot. Well, that's really cool. Have you always wanted to be a teacher? Was that something like in college you decided to start doing? Where did that direction come from?
I can remember my early years. I wanted to be a fighter pilot in the military until I realized I was afraid of heights. That kicked that right out the window real quick. Originally wanted to be a coach. I originally wanted to be a coach, and I did music because it was something new to try. And my mother's got a music degree, so I'd always been around music, sang in the church choir when I was younger. And it wasn't until my junior year that I decided that I wanted to be. I for sure wanted to be a music educator of high school. Yeah, it's been one of those where I'd never looked back. I couldn't imagine doing another career because nothing feels the same as teaching music to me.
Do you see yourself just teaching until you retire, or do you see yourself like, oh man, I can only do this for a few more years? Or what do you see as your future?
I'm probably going to teach until I retire, and then maybe do if I'm allowed, go back and help in the classroom some after I've retired, because I do see a lot of hope in this younger generation for inclusivity, and even here inclusivity and love for more than just the person who looks the same as I do. It's one of those I want to go back and still be a part of that even after I retire.
I think that's good. I like what you said. I feel there is a lot of hope with Gen Z that's coming up through the ranks right now. And they have such a unique look at the world since they've been like pretty much raised on, I don't know, our disasters and the boomer disasters and everything that's come since then. And they've lived like on the net since the day they were born. And I'm just fascinated about how they kind of just see everything and have access to everything. And even though we have a lot of conservative schools and different places like trying to shut down information, these kids already have access to it and they know it's out there. And so while it sucks for teachers to have to remove all the books, a lot of these kids, they have access to that. And I think it's really great. I think this is going to be a really unique generation coming up,
That's
unlike anything else.
that's the beautiful thing of it, is that all of the access to history that we know of, students can find it with something that goes in their pockets, and that's the best thing that I see. While schools are a great place, the fact that they can get the real context of something from that as well is spectacular.
That's awesome. I like that. It's a good note to wrap up with. Do you have anything you'd like to say to any of the other hosts? They're not listening right now. It's just me, but they'll get to hear the podcast in this episode, or anything you'd like to say to anyone out there listening before we tune out?
I guess what I would like to say is that even though it feels very much like I am in an area where it's a constant uphill battle, a lot of these teachers out here still do very much care for their students and love their students and do what they can in the best way they know how. My district, and even in particular, they love our students and they care about us. It's just we need help. We need more teachers that understand and care for students as a whole, instead of what we think students should be. And to the hosts, y'all are all incredible individuals and human beings. And every time I see that little on Spotify, that little blue dot next to Teacher Needs a Drink, I'm like, yes.
Oh, thank you, James. I appreciate it. You have a great night. Say hello to your wife for me, and I'll probably talk to you again soon. This is Texas Teacher Kristen. Welcome, Texas Teacher Kristen.
Hey there, Elvis.
Hey, it's nice to have you on here. I know I've chatted with you a little bit in the Facebook group a little bit, and definitely during when we did movie watch parties. It's been a minute since we've done one of those. But I am glad to have you on the air. How's your day been?
Yeah, it's been a day. We just came back from a 4-day, ice break. So we went to school last week on Monday, and then we're out Tuesday through Friday. So today was a lot of catch up, and the students weren't really having it. They don't get the urgency that, well, now we're a week behind.
Yeah, for them, it's just, oh, there's more work for us to do. Crap. Do you mind me asking, what subject matter do you teach, or what level?
I teach middle school, 6th through 8th
Ooh.
grade, special ed English.
Ooh, that sounds challenging.
It is. I have 5 classes, and I have my 6th grade is double block, so I teach them for reading and for writing, and then I have 2 sections of 8th grade and 1 of 7th grade. So I basically have 4 preps.
Oh, wow. But it's middle school and special ed at that. That is not easy. So is it a
Yeah.
general inclusion class, or how would you
Um,
describe your class?
well, it's basically a modified curriculum. So most of my students are, um, they say about 2 to 3 grade levels below their peers.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of them have, dyslexia and other reading difficulties. Um, so yeah, basically, I take the gen ed curriculum, from the district, and then modify it as best I can for the group that I have.
Well, interesting. Well, I'm curious, Texas teacher Kristen. You're one of our patrons, and you have been for a while. How'd you come across the podcast? How'd you find out about us?
I think it was just through, like I think I first found y'all on Spotify. I was just looking for a podcast or something to listen to on my way to work. I have about a 30-minute commute and came across Teacher Needs a Drink, and I that pretty much described me as a middle school teacher for 15 years. This
Jeez.
teacher does need a drink every now and then. And so I just started listening, and, I fell in love with the podcast and all the hosts. I just, like the, having that kind of, safe space to speak freely, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's become a valuable weekly therapy for me and for a lot of the hosts. So I'm glad listeners get something out of it.
Oh yeah,
um,
definitely. I'm just like, oh my gosh, and sometimes it's like you're just, it kind of puts things in perspective for, I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this, or dang, these people have it way worse than me. So, that does help too. I'm like, okay, now I can make it through this. If this person is doing this, I can handle it.
well, I'm glad we help, and I hope it wasn't me that was going through the worst of it. But I, I'm glad you're listening, and I'm glad you're still teaching. Now, I'm curious. You've been teaching 15 years. I've been teaching, I think, oh my God, I'm probably getting close to, I'm like at 18 or 19 now. Um, how do you feel about continuing teaching? Is this something that you feel that you're going to keep doing for a path, or you're already starting to look at outs? Like I was talking to another patron, and they're still and I'm not mocking them in any way. I feel it and support it, but they're like, no, this is what I like to do, and this is what I want to do until I'm not doing work anymore. What do you see for yourself as a teacher? Do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to change? Are you looking at different things? Where are you at?
Right now I'm kind of, looking for a change. Now I don't know if it's just a change in, you know, environment, like going to a different school or, or getting out of, teaching altogether. I it's hard to think, I'm like, all right, this is year 15. I've worked all middle school. I don't know how much longer, I can, do middle school. But I've been, my district had sent out, or my specific school sent out, well, contracts don't go out until, March or, whatever, but we would like to know kind of just to, plan for next year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already February. It's only February, really. I told them, I was like, I'm looking, for, um, something closer to home. Cause like I said, I have a 30-minute drive each day. But I don't, have anything set in stone. So I don't know. I'm looking to move to a district closer to home, but I'm also open to the possibility of, you know, leaving the profession and maybe going into, a professional development type route. What I've run into, there's not a lot of moves that you can make, once, and especially in special ed. I always joke it's like Hotel California. You can
Mhm.
check out, but you can never actually leave. Because once you get into special ed, they don't want to let you go. Because I've mentioned to my principal. And before I was like, I would really like to go back to just because I started my career in teaching history, and moving back into that would be great. Plus, it's not star tested.
Exactly. Well, I see, and I brought it up before, that you have a partner, you're married, you have a husband. Is he in teaching as well, or is he in a different field?
No, he was in the hospitality industry, like in hotels.
Does he support you staying as a teacher when he sees you drained or beat up or all however you're feeling? Or how does he support you?
He it's hard being married to someone who's not an educator, because they don't, always get what you're going through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and it's really crazy that, you asked this, because just the other day, there's been some stuff in the news about, teachers, and still the attitudes towards teachers and the violence in some areas towards teachers. And he just had a breakdown the other day, and just started crying because, he doesn't want to get that phone call and not be able to help me, if
Yeah.
something were to happen. Because, we've had to go through all those trainings and, active shooters. And, I try not to bring that stuff to him because I don't want him to worry. But yeah, so I mean, he's supportive of, me as a teacher, but he, hates how stressed out I am. I've had some health issues, you know, that caused me to be out of work for a couple days. I had a stroke.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't, I mean, it probably could have been related to stress. So he worries in that aspect.
Well, it sounds like he's a loving, caring person. So congratulations.
Thank you. He very much is.
Well, that kind of goes through a lot of the things I had to ask you, but I'm curious, when we talk on Teacher Needs a Drink podcast, what are some of the subjects that you like to hear us talk about, or some of the things that you just, that felt at least compelled you enough to make you want to join our Patreon and be one extra little supporter for us? What draws you to the podcast?
I think it's just having that community because of, teachers who are going through, things that I have, and, hearing everybody's stories, and, just the support that you give each other. It actually, even though, I've never met any of the hosts, I have talked to y'all through, the chat during the live streams and things like that. And, it's nice, to have that, that group that, they're not the people that you work with. And, but so you can kind of say how you feel, and especially with, the pseudonyms and everything like that. I look forward to Wednesdays for my commute to work, because, and I'm always, that, and, I've, the would you rathers is, hilarious to me, because, I'm like, how? I just don't even know how you come up with those. But, trying to think, all right, what would I pick, and what's that bunny loophole gonna be, this week?
She's so good at that.
She really is. But that, and then, how you're very supportive of mental health for teachers. And even if it's just right now listening to a podcast, or, but very encouraging and telling people, it's okay to take your days, and, just being supportive and hearing that is also, really nice as a listener.
Oh, good. I'm glad. No, mental health is big for me. Starting with pandemic and how we were all just locked down and teaching and doing weird virtual stuff and everything, all the crazy bullshit that went on through there. I still can't believe some of the stuff we did during pandemic. To just
And
now,
in a week,
exactly.
I mean, we had to flip the script in like a week or two.
And looking back at how we did all that without losing our minds, it's just insane. It's really, and part of that was just having the podcast where I could sit and we talk and like, okay, how are you guys today? But I mean, mental health is just so important, especially as a teacher, because this job is not easy. I mean, you teach special ed. I've never had to teach special ed exclusively, but I'm close with Lucille Lane, who had and did before she was able to step out and become teaching adjacent with her career. And
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's a heavy, heavy load. And it's not one you just pick up at 8 in the morning and put down at 5 at night. It's, it's all your life. And that's exhausting. That's why I'm curious about your partner. And I'm happy that they're very supportive of you. And mental health is just the other stuff, because even when we're not getting help from jobs, our lives outside can suck. I mean, I went through a breakup this month and that sucked. I have my kids who can be interesting, or money, or banking, or family,
Oh,
or God,
yes.
all those things. And so you really do need to embrace mental health, not even just as a teacher, just as a human. But sorry, I get on my little soapbox every now and then.
Oh, no, I totally get it. But yeah, and I've learned, as over the years, I mean, I see so many, new teachers and just wanting, I mean, and I am all for giving 100% of myself, but there comes a time that, I don't even, I don't answer emails after work unless they're absolutely super duper important. Um, there's many times that I bring the computer home and it doesn't even leave my bag,
Good.
I've just, with the stress that I've had and, like the health scares that I've had with the stroke and everything, you know, they'll replace me in an instant,
Mhm.
and my family can't do that. So at least I hope they can't.
No.
And so it's just really trying to have that work-life balance. And I think that's what's so hard for teachers.
No, it's hard, especially because we're in a job where they have no problem asking us to give everything without giving anything in return. And so many of us have done that blindly for so long. It's like, no, we're hitting a breaking point now. You need to give us some money. You need to give us some time. You need to give us some brain
Dean days
space.
only go so far.
Exactly. Texas teacher Kristen, I need to wrap us up because I have one more interview I got to do before I start doing my dinner stuff. But do you have any messages to anyone out there listening, or to any of the hosts who will be listening at some point, or anything, but parting thoughts?
Just really, and I don't want to miss anybody's names, but I mean, what, Bunny and Count and Mama Chicken and everybody that I've heard. And if I left anybody off, I know that I've missed some, Lucille Lane, and I don't even, there's so many, but I'm so fortunate to have found y'all's podcast, and now to be, talking with you, Elvis. I mean, that was, it was really, really awesome.
Boom. All right. Elvis is back. And right now I have our patron, Bookworm. Hello, Bookworm.
Hello.
Well, Bookworm, I've chatted with you several times as I've gotten to know you through the Patreon. I believe there's been many, many live streams where you've come and you've chat with us and the host while we're recording. But Bookworm, I'm glad you're here. I also know you're fairly active in the Patreon group, or our Facebook patron group, where you've got to meet some other people of our community. So I'm glad you're here. And so first I'm going to ask you is, how'd you find the podcast? How'd you hear about us, especially way out on the East Coast?
One of my it's from Facebook, and one of my coworkers was posting some of the Facebook memes and things like, I like this. This is my brand of humor. I enjoy this. And then I kind of went, oh, they're on Spotify. Cool. And that became my daily Wednesday drive to work. I'd put you all on and listen and just cackle at Bunny finding a loophole in the Would You Rathers, and I am usually cackling in my car on my way to work.
That's wonderful. Well, it's Monday. It's a teaching day. You're a teacher. I assume you taught today. How was your day?
I did. Today was a good day. Everything just seemed to be kind of chill today, which Mondays are usually chill, but today was an extra level of, I didn't have a lot of my usual character builders.
Yeah.
going on today. And I had a little extra time in my schedule today to get a couple extra things done because we're getting close to our final orders for the year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of extra things that I have to do on that end that I don't always have a chance to do on other days. So today I had a little extra couple minutes in my day and like, okay, we're going to print off reports and start doing all the organizational pieces. Because once we get to testing at the end of the year, that's usually where I have no mental capacity to do anything.
How long have you been teaching?
This is, if I'm doing the mental math right, I started in 2003, so I think this is going to be completing year 20.
That's impressive. No, I think I'm at 18. I want to say, I'm trying to think out of our hosts. I know some of them have been teaching longer than I have. I believe that Wayne Kerr, formerly Turd Ferguson, he's been teaching a few years longer than I have. I think he's in the 20s at this point. But I think he's winding it down because, it's hard to do. It's hard to do for this level. What level do you teach? Are you elementary, middle school, high school?
Elementary.
Ooh, okay. I love elementary. I've been teaching elementary predominantly for most of my career. I do work with middle schoolers and high schoolers and a ton of pre-K, but elementary is my bread and butter. Do you see yourself doing this for a long time? Do you see yourself doing this for another few years, then finding something else? What's the water feel like to you? Is this something you can soak in for a bit?
I've been kind of waffling, and I know I put something out there in the Patreon group a couple weeks ago about something that was going on, and I was starting to question whether this was going to be the life for me, and should I continue? Have I finally reached the end of my career? Have I made it to a place where most people in the job I currently do don't go into it right out of their undergrad? They are in a classroom or they're an English teacher, then they come into my role about where I am now. And I always knew I wanted to do this very, very early on. So when someone asks me, are you sure you still want to teach? I go, it's never been the students, although we're still trying to rebuild from COVID, of getting them back into the stamina of just being in school. And so it's never been that. It's all the extra bureaucracy. It's all the more, hey, do more with less. Yeah. Well, no, I need support. I need these things. I need time. I think Count even said this a couple podcasts ago. He was tired of tired of giving his family his leftovers.
Yeah, it was a very well said phrase.
Yes, and I resonated with that because I realized I was bringing a ton of stuff home. I'd finish dinner, I'd come upstairs, lesson plans, purchase orders, all these things, and I finally got to a place where unless I have to, I'm not going to. I'm going to my time with my son and Mr. Bookworm. I'll go ahead and call him that right now. My time with him is valuable, and I don't want to give that up unless I have to because there's a deadline. I don't want to give either of them my leftovers.
No, that's very valid. And we'll move on. I'm just kind of curious because I've been asking this of all the patrons I've interviewed today. You have a partner. Are they very supportive of you continuing teaching? Are they wary of it? Are they like, this is your dream, you go for it? Like, hey, hun, maybe you should try something else that might be easier. Or where are they at with you? How do they support you?
He is very supportive. He is, if I decided I'm just done and this is my last year, he's behind me. If it's one more year, great. If it's 5 more years, it's more, he wants to support me how best he can, but he also goes, I also do see you getting a bit more worn down over time, and not that it's not causing any conflict with us. We're just very in tune with each other's moods, and when he's like, you seem to be doing this a lot lately, and then it's forcing me to check myself of, is this a one-time thing, or is this a long-term that I've been feeling this for the last 5 years, 3 years, whatever it happens to be. So he is supportive of what I want to do, whether I choose to stay in teaching or find a different outlet for my love of reading, which, if you could see the room I'm in right now, I have lots of books and not enough shelf space.
I've been to that
help.
house. There's nothing wrong. I love books myself. And so I buy a lot of them and download a bunch more than I should.
Yeah.
Well, Bookworm, I just have a couple more things for you before we move on. Well, I'm glad you participate in our patron Facebook group. It's one of the reasons I was happy to have you on here, just because you are an advocate and you're in there. And then it kind of shows to other teachers who are listening what they could do if they decide to join the Patreon. Do you have any messages for anyone out there or for any of the hosts who might be listening that you want to say to them before we sign off?
I want to reiterate what you all have said over the last couple of years, especially the airline thing. I think Bunny did that.
That was Shirley Temple, yeah.
Shirley. Oh, when I was particularly having a couple of really rough days at the end of last year, I would go back and find that and put that on repeat and just go ding dong, and I just immediately just calmed down. It's like, it's not that bad, but taking care of your mental health. They will. I found a meme a while back of, they will post your job before your obituary.
Yeah.
Your job is not your life. If just take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, you're not gonna be able to take care of the kids you work with, and that is super important, because there are kids they'll have that rough day, but you are that bright spot for them. And just really just taking care of yourself, and that's something that I have a hard time doing, because I am very much a giver. I like to give of myself all the time, but I don't like to ask for help. And I definitely don't like to let people know that I am not in a good headspace.
Oh, I hear that. I've done the same thing for a long time. But lately I've learned that if I'm a lot more open with the crap I'm going through, that's, reasonable to share with people, not like the little tiny things.
Yes.
I've learned I feel a lot better, and that honestly, no one really cares or judges me. And so if I say like, oh, yes, I'm going through this right now, most people are like, oh, that sucks, instead of me pretending everything's fine. Like, no, I'm actually struggling. This thing sucks right now, but I'll be fine. And I want to let you know. I don't think we should have to hide our pain just because it's not healthy for us, and it won't help us. We won't be able to move on or heal if that's what we do.
No.
Well, Bookworm, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you being a member of the Patreon, and I'm glad you get to be on an episode this week. So thank you.
I know. Absolutely.
Well, you have a fantastic evening. Tell your partner I said thank you for sharing you for the evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Teacher Needs a Drink podcast, I would like to welcome you to the 2020-21 school year. Please make sure all personal emotions, familial needs, and health issues are stowed away in the rear compartment of your brain before logging on for the day. Failure to tuck this baggage away may result in an inability to achieve any progress. Once lessons have commenced, you are free to move about your mind and deal with any issues, but be warned that the size and type of your baggage may have shifted, and you risk collapse by exposing yourself to them at this time. There are 12 restrooms in this building. The 8 closest to you will be randomly closed for sanitation. Please consider this when thinking of intaking liquids or nutrition of any form. Bathrooms are considered off-limits while giving any kind of instruction, so please plan any bodily evacuation accordingly. In the unlikely event that the internet or school software should go down, please notify the front office. We are told one of them should be back from lunch before too long. If you are teaching in person, please make sure you are aware of certain recent safety measures that the local government should have put in place while the lessons are progressing. In general, young humans are disgusting by nature, so these rules should be followed at all times, regardless of your political views or claimed IQ. Number 1. Masks that cover the mouth and nose should be worn at all times, even if the student is 6 feet away from another living creature. Number 2, all students should sanitize hands upon entering and exiting the classroom. Number 3, In the event that you should start feeling emotionally overwhelmed or an anxiety attack coming on, please make sure you put on your own personal oxygen mask and help yourself before tending to the needs of others. Teacher Needs a Drink podcast would like to once again thank you for continuing to work in the noblest of professions, regardless of pay, toxic positivity, and what the general public opinion of your position may be. We know you had many choices in professional careers, and we here at Teacher Needs a Drink podcast are ecstatic that you continue to attempt to educate the future of this world. We welcome the opportunity to listen, commune, cry, smile, and support you through this fucktangle of a year. Remember, you are not alone. Thank you again for listening to Teacher Needs a Drink podcast. Deep breaths, deep drinks.
All right, folks, I'd like to thank a lot of the people who helped out today. A big thank you to Exhausted Band Director, Texas Teacher Kristen, and Bookworm, who are all patrons of Teacher Needs a Drink. If you're interested in joining and being one of these people who gets their name called out the front, sign up for you at Patreon. Go look up Teacher Needs a Drink podcast on Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you get access to over 100 different pieces of audio content that have not been shared on the main feed. There's a lot of great stuff in there. So I'd like to thank everyone and everyone listening. I love you guys. I really do. This podcast is a labor of love. I don't make money off of it, and it's really the sheer just friendship of my other hosts that they come in and help too. And so I appreciate everyone listening, and I love you guys. This one, it's been a hard month. Man, every time I start to think I'm better, things get a little trickier, but I'm getting there, and things are getting better. But man, everyone hang out there. Remember what Shirley Temper said in there. You aren't alone. There are hundreds of thousands of us teachers who are all going through the same thing. There might not be many like you going through the same thing at your school, but they are out there. If you get a chance, sign up for the Patreon or join our sponsor, Lud Lamb Dramatics. If you have a theater teacher in your building, you can help us out by telling them about Lud Lamb Dramatics, and maybe they will find something there. All right, friends, thank you for listening. We've got our 175th episode coming up soon. Holy crap. So I'll see you on the flip side. Love you guys. Bye.